So I know we talked a bit with Jason about the overarching nomination, but I wanted to kind of dive into more detail about your individual practice and artistic
Sure.
work. So I guess the most logical way to start is to ask what are like the main themes of your work and what mediums do you prefer to use? I know you're a painter, and how do your mediums really complement your subject matter?
The work that I'm making now has to do with the sort of tradition of Dutch Mary Company paintings, where there are these groups of people, usually of lower middle social or economic class, that are all gathered around a table or in some kind of gathering that's very informal, and they're usually either eating or drinking or playing cards, that sort of thing. And so I take that tradition and I use it to comment on Southern issues like economic status, things like poverty, but also to comment on nostalgia and being interested in the things that we feel an attachment to, but may not necessarily be good for us. And then also commenting on painting in general, which is the activation of the space of the canvas, uh, thinking about depth, thinking about altered semi-abstract forms, especially in the case of the dinner table as a sort of serpentine um, form that really kind of draws you back into the space. And that's really why oil painting works so great for me, is because you're able to get that level of depth through the glazing process and that sort of thing. But I also work a lot in drawing. A lot of my paintings start out as really finished drawings that I'll convert into a finished painting. And then I work a little bit in collage, a little bit in sculpture, but for the most part, painting is the medium that I find the most kinship with.
Or any other kind of places that you find inspiration for your work, or like at the South you talked about?
Mhm. Yeah, really everything is fair game. A lot of times I'll be out working or going and visiting places, and I'll see something and I'll immediately write that image down or make a quick sketch, and that becomes fodder for my painting practice. A lot of the subjects now, especially, have to do with directly what's going on in my life. So my wife and I are actually expecting our first kid in July, and so we're really excited about that, but I'm also a very anxious person. And so now a lot of the pieces that I'm making are reflections on my anxiety as a new father, but also um, thinking about my father and his father and all my grandfathers, and thinking about um, that lineage and sort of the good things that they passed on to me. And so definitely reconsidering nostalgia, but also figuring out my own path as a person. And so a lot of the objects that are coming up in the work that I'm making tie directly to getting ready to bring my son into the world. And so um, they there'll be things like Legos, which are something that were really big for me as a kid, but also food items that I used to eat as a kid a lot. And so a lot of those images are recurring throughout the body of work that I'm making now.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Um, so I know you talked a little bit about like sometimes you like draw and then it like moves into a painting
Mhm.
in the studio, but could you expand a little bit on your creative process kind of in the studio and that kind of space for you?
Sure, sure. It's a little bit frenetic because it doesn't always take the same trajectory every time. But initially, what I'll do is I'll either come into the studio with, and a lot of artists are like this. We'll either make paintings about really grandiose ideas, or we'll find a specific image that we really hone in on, and we'll make something about that. And so sometimes I'll come into the studio when I'm starting a drawing, and I'll have these really kind of lofty ideas, and I'll try to tether them to images or figures that are doing specific actions, or I'll see something out like a cat, sitting on a table or something like that, and I'll make a drawing that has that in it. And then eventually larger works will come out of that. And so that's sort of the process to get drawings going. And then once I get the drawing kind of finalized, I'll figure out what size works best for a particular canvas, and then I'll get started on that. And it usually takes me anywhere from a few weeks to a few months to get a painting completely finished.
Gotcha. Long process. Uh,
Yeah, the process that I use, I do a lot of glazing on like the top layers of the painting, and so it takes a little while to get those built up and completely dry. So
Definitely. Um, okay. Well, I know that you talked a little bit about your ties to the South, but more specifically, how have your ties to Memphis and your time at the U of M kind of like fed into your art and your work?
well, one of the things that I've started doing is I've also become really like an independent curator, putting shows together and that sort of thing, which I feel really is an extension of my artistic practice, because a lot of the things that I curate for are things that I think about in the studio. And so one of the things that Memphis really had an effect on me while I was there is that um, the community is very open to new artists, new curators, really like sticking their necks out and working towards new goals. The community was very supportive in the last show that I put together, Voluntarily Indirect. Um, I think around half the artists were from Memphis. They're artists that I work closely with, and some of them were even some of my professors while I was at Memphis. And so I think Memphis has had an effect on me in the sense that it's given me the confidence to be able to pursue things like that.
Mhm.
Um, as well as being in Memphis, obviously it's a southern city, and so a lot of the same things that I was thinking about, other people in the area that are from there were thinking about those things too, and so being able to connect with them and find a sense of camaraderie through those subjects and themes was gave me a boost of confidence in my studio practice that I hadn't had to that level before.
Yeah, I know you talked about like your current work, but is there any like recent work that you really want to like shout out or talk about what you're working
Um,
on?
One of the things that I'm making a lot of images of are waterfowl that are from this area, because with the nesting process and the fact that they have to change location so quickly. I found really it's almost become like a symbol for my life the past couple of years in a way, because I feel like everything's changing so fast, and the fact that these animals are able to get up and leave and travel thousands of miles and still be able to care for their young once they reach that destination. I've found a lot of parallels between those animals and myself, and so the work that I'm about to start showing, that I'm kind of working on right now in the studio, uh, touches on that a lot. It has a lot of those animals present in it, and as well as the other things that I mentioned earlier. And so I'm really excited about that. I think that waterfowl are really interesting to paint. My favorite duck is a wood duck, and so they have very like really detailed patterns and intricate color work that are within the form of that animal. And so I'm really excited about it. It's really interesting for me as a painter to be able to approach a subject like that.
Definitely. So are you gonna have like an exhibition sometime soon, or is it all up
Working
in the
toward
air? Or
working towards it. Yeah, I don't really have anything set right now, but definitely the body of work. I have the idea of it and the trajectory that it's going on. I'm about halfway through the amount of work that I usually make for a particular body of work, and so we're getting close to the being able to exhibit it and see it on the wall outside of the studio.
okay. Well, that's it for me. Thank you so much for like taking the time to chat with me about your work,
Sure.
Richard Knowles, and everything. But if you have anything else to add, feel free. But that's all I got for today.
Same for me. So it works out good.